Good morning. You are listening to KFUG Community Radio, kfugradio.org. Not currently on 101.1 FM, but we're working on that. I am Amanda Doctor, and this is time for Community Service, the part of the show where we serve the community. And today, we fully intend to do that by interviewing our fine guests about the upcoming People's March. I am joined here in the KFUG House studios by Lupe Gutiérrez and Kevin Hendrick. Welcome.
Hey.
Good
Good
nice
morning.
to be here.
Well, thank you for agreeing to come to the interview. I had when I saw the flyers going around for the People's March, United We Stand, I'm like, I need more information.
Yeah, thank you.
We do live in divisive times, and so I think it's important to understand what we are standing for. And Kevin, you handed me this little flyer here that goes over some of these bullet points. But before we hit that, do you have any opening statements about this that you would like to explain?
My opening statement would be that we were very disappointed by our elections, and a lot of people were expressing that disappointment. So as a person, I thought to myself, oh dear, what are we going to do? And so I thought we need to have a post-election meeting, and that's how it all started. Mobilize.us put out this information that said, get community gatherings to have people express how they're feeling. And so I thought, what a great idea. So we sent out some invitations and people showed up. And I was like, wow. I mean, I thought it was going to be 5 people. But then, you know, we ended up with like 20 people. Nice. And they were expressing their concerns. Wow. And so because of that, we thought, okay, what's our next step? Mm-hmm. And our next step was to have another meeting to organize this People's March, which again came from both, it was called People's March through the Women's March and Mobilize. So there's a lot of people involved nationwide, statewide, and in our neighboring counties. And we're really excited about doing this. We don't know how many people will show up, but I feel that it's a necessary thing. And another thing I'd like to say is that we want people to understand that we have more in common than our differences. Oof. And I think that if people get that, we might have more people joining us.
Yeah, focusing more on the overlap than the divisive.
Yes, conflicts, because
yeah.
You can see that some of the issues that we're concerned or will be addressing are things like immigration. Big one, right? I mean, because we have this language out there right now that says mass deportation. And oh my gosh, how scary is that for some members of our community? Right. There is a deep fear for some people out there. Yeah. And then we have education. You know, some people are so afraid of that phrase called dismantling the Department of Education. Yeah. We don't know what that means. It sounds like such a threat, though. And education is such a necessary component for all people, right?
Functioning society and democracy.
Oh my
you
gosh,
can't have it without that, yeah.
And then there's health care. I mean, who doesn't want good health care? Right. And it's so expensive, and all the people behind it, the insurance companies, oh my gosh. Yeah. You know, so we have things that people, I think, want to hear about, and there will be speakers. We don't want to take a whole lot of time with the speakers, and it's, you know, maybe from a 5-minute speech that they'll give, and we'll have some other information. So Kevin has played a big part in it too, because he has gone to the Board of Supervisors. He's given us this idea of when we march, what do we do? You know, so Kevin gets to take care of our safety monitoring. Although I tell you, I did reach out to the police department, to the chief, and he was very friendly, and he said, you just, you know, stay on the sidewalks, be safe, and that's what we want, is to be safe. But we want to express our feelings and concerns, and like I can't emphasize enough how much I want to say we have more in common than differences, and I hope people do join us.
Yeah. I do see here that it looks like all of this starts at the Cultural Center here on Front Street in Crescent City. At about 10:30 a.m. is when the doors open, and the speakers that you mentioned, that will be taking place between 11 and 11:30. You noted that they'll be speaking on civil rights, immigration, education, and healthcare. Who are our speakers?
Civil rights person, we have a very cool person that I absolutely new to our community, and his name is Troy Leah.
Oh, Troy. We know Troy.
Oh, we love Troy. You know, it was great to have him come forward and say that he would do this, and that was through our connection with Silas, who is tied to the safe space. Safe space, which I thought was really great. So that's what I mean. I mean, getting people involved to understand that we need to protect people because sometimes they feel unprotected. And then we have Hilda Contreras, who will be talking about the immigration.
Okay.
And then we have this amazing nurse. We just love her. She's a new member to us as well from our reaching out, and that's Elizabeth Hassman.
Okay.
And then I get the privilege of talking about education.
Wonderful.
Because I could not, nobody, I can't tell you how many people I asked to speak, but again, people were hesitant.
Yeah.
You know, there's a little fear, a little confusion, a little, a lot of hesitation out there.
And let me comment on that because it's a real thing. In this county, there are some people that will be unfriendly to us.
Yeah.
That's why it was great to have Troy show up at our meeting, and he immediately agreed to join the safety team because he knows, he's had experience in his activities where people can be very negative, and we want to be, crossing the streets is one thing. We want people to be safe and respectful of traffic, but we just need to be prepared in case something bad happens. And what I tell people, because last year when we were running the campaign and we were trying to get Kamala elected, people in this county, people were afraid to step up. They were afraid to put out signs, and it's a real thing. But we have to overcome that. We have to stand up, and that's what this is about. That taking an opportunity to get people together helps people feel not alone, helps people feel empowered to believe what they believe. And United We Stand is the perfect theme for this because, and one of the chants for the march is, people united will never be defeated. And as things change in Washington, what we want to do is, well, first of all, we decided that we need to focus on what we're for and not just be against something or someone.
Yeah.
And I've been taught to talk about the federal administration and not an individual clown that is in charge. And so I think we got it right with focusing on the issues that seem most at risk. And what we want to do as time goes forward is helping translate the federal policy changes to help people understand how that impacts us, how that impacts people locally. Because everybody makes political decisions on what is good for them, and that's right, and that's fair. But it's not always going to be clear when we're talking about taking over Greenland that behind the scenes, the Congress is talking about cutting Medicare and Medi-Cal and Social Security. And these are things that, regardless of political affiliation, people need. So I think it's always most productive for us to focus on policy rather than people. And I think that's our motivation on this. Get people together and help people feel not alone in this county. And we're a unique little red county on a blue coast in a blue state in a purplish country.
Yeah.
So it's a strange dynamic, but so we have 5 Republicans on the Board of Supervisors and 1 Democrat, but our congressman is a Democrat, our assembly member is a Democrat, our state senator is a Democrat. So as Democrats, we have really good relations and connections, and as issues come up, we have a good outlet to be able to talk to them. And so they can help us, because I believe all of those people right up to the state level care about Del Norte County. And if they don't, we're going to remind them they should.
Yeah. You mentioned in this flyer here that this event is sponsored by the Del Norte Democrats, but it is in fact a nonpartisan event.
Yeah.
Most definitely, yes. You know, when we say sponsor or organize, it's more like organized through the Democrats. I get another privilege of being the chairperson of what we call the Voice Committee, and that's for voter outreach, information, communication, and education. And that's what I look at it as. Because one of the things that happened while we were doing some rallying for Waltz and Harrison Waltz, is doing some booths. And while we were doing those booths, one of the things that I noticed is the young people that were going by and the things that were happening with that. I was kind of shocked. And I thought, wow, how do we change this? And again, I guess I would say education really helps a lot. There's another key person who's playing in this, and that's our MC, which I forgot to mention.
There's an MC.
There's an MC, and he's really quite clever, educated, humorous. His name is Alan Gersten, and he came out of Arizona, right? I mean, he was a member in the Democratic Party there, kind of high up there, totally different area than us. And the other thing I'd like to say is we want young people to join us because they are our future. And I want them to understand how their future is going to be impacted through these issues. And they need to start voicing a very educated opinion, know how to look at things. Because our press right now is one-sided, I want to say. So our major press.
We're working on
newspaper?
it. We're working on it.
Well, you're talking about the triplicate.
No, well, the triplicate,
Corporate media in general.
Exactly.
There's been a lot of consolidation and a lot of commercialization, and that has manipulated the narratives and people's emotions at large. And frankly, a lot of people are disillusioned because it's just bad news all the time, and they're upset with the two-party system, and they don't really understand how all these complex policy things impact them personally, so they kind of just check out of it. Just dissociate from what's going on entirely.
And let me add, without appearing to suck up too much, I love what you're doing here.
We're trying.
And thank God that you have Jessica still writing.
Absolutely.
Because
we are so
Jessica
blessed.
is an excellent reporter, and she is everywhere. If it wasn't for Jessica and the news that you guys print or air,
both.
I wouldn't know, and I pay attention. I wouldn't know as much about what was happening in this county because, the triplicate can't cover everything. And if they're even in the best circumstance, the lag time on publication for the triplicate is basically 2 weeks. If if a Harbor District meeting happens on a Tuesday, the story wouldn't get submitted until the following Tuesday. It wouldn't publish until the following Tuesday. By the time we read it, it's 2 weeks old.
And I remember that actually impacted our election process here locally because they're the paper of record and people had to publish in there, and the timeline wouldn't allow them to do that. And that is a real concern. We do need a functional press to make sure that people are making informed decisions about the policies that affect them personally and their families.
Right.
So.
And I mentioned to you earlier, it would sure be great if you guys could expand into a regional area that would be like Humboldt and Mendocino and Lake County. I mean, it would be great because the press has such.
Let her finish her sentence, and then yes, Paul will pipe in here.
Okay. So I got a hot issue going on. Okay.
He couldn't resist.
I'm sorry. The press plays such a huge part in what we do in this area. So I guess I hit a hot issue, and we have a new person on.
A new person.
A new person.
Who are
Hello.
you, gentleman?
I am a new person.
Please introduce yourself for the
A long-time listener, first-time caller. And I'm watching the UPS guy leave
Paul
a package
Kritz.
up here. Sorry, yes, station manager Paul Kritz. I wanted to just chime in because just yesterday I submitted what was called a letter of inquiry for a grant that would, and I think we'll be accepted to apply for this grant because we check every box. Basically, to join forces with KCIW and Brookings and expand Redwood Voice over the border, and using interns from Del Norte High and Brookings Harbor High to kind of build up the next generation of community journalists right here in this community, and to do it with Jessica as a lead, as well as a woman named Lori Gallo Stoddard, who is a retired news person working with KCIW, who has Peabodys and Emmys in her past as a television news producer. So we've got a lot of expertise, we've got a great workforce, and we are looking for the money to do exactly what you suggested.
Oh,
Lupe.
I want to join you.
So if you're able, go online, donate to KFUG.
KFUGradio.org or redwoodvoice.org, which is the news organizational website where you can get all of our digital articles and listen to our daily newscasts.
So what was that guy's name again that was just on?
Oh, Inigo Montoya? No, I'm sorry, Paul Kritz.
Anyhow, I want him to take it even further. I want him to go to the opposite direction too, the Humboldt and the Mendocino area, because I think it can happen.
We do have actually a Humboldt branch office led by our director, Persephone Rose, and our newscasts are carried in Humboldt as well. But yes, we want to expand.
Yeah, because the press is just so important to hear both sides. I mean, I don't feel like I'm a one-sided person. Things are
more nuanced usually.
Yeah, I can be conservative, just like the next person. Conservative is not. It's not owned by anybody.
Right.
Just like our flag, it's not owned by just one person, or Democrats or Republicans.
Which is one of our goals last year, this year, ongoing, is people have this image of American flags on the back of pick-em-up trucks driving down the road with Trump signs on them, and that's an abuse of the flag to begin with. But the American flag belongs to everybody, and we are a part of America, and we will proudly lead our march with an American flag.
So that march, just to reiterate here, kicks off this Saturday, the 18th. The marching starts at 11:30 after the speakers, and you guys are going to be on the sidewalk on Highway 101, looping all the way down to about Starbucks and back?
Yep. We're going to go up to Starbucks, grab a cup of coffee. No.
Everybody going through.
Everybody walking through the drive lane. United we stand for caffeine.
Caffeine. No. We probably won't.
Well, we will have a little coffee and hot chocolate.
Yeah, we'll have that.
And,
But so we'll cross over at the light at Starbucks and go over to the fairgrounds. And I actually haven't talked to Lupe about this, but I think if time allows, we will linger for a while, because
lingering.
That's so marching up and then spreading out at
Hanging
the
out on the corner a
fairgrounds
little bit,
and standing there
shaking
for a
your
while.
signs. Yeah.
And I just thought of this again. Haven't talked to Lupe, and she's in charge of this, so I apologize for the breaking it on air. That there are some people that this is a mile and a half to walk, and some people are not going to be able to do that. So what I'm going to suggest for some of those people that I've already talked to is they can drive up and meet us at the fairgrounds.
Oh, nice!
And
Good
stand,
idea.
Hold down the fort.
and then and then be with us there and hold the signs.
Oh, I love it!
Wonderful.
I love it.
See, sometimes I get it right.
Well, I mean, inclusive to disability is relevant to all of this. I mean, healthcare policies and disability. They're
and this is Lupe got us affiliated with the Women's March. Now, this is a national organization, and the last time they did this, they called it the Women's March. It's the same organization, but they're calling it the People's March, which is perhaps more inclusive, still very feminist oriented, but that is one of the things that they emphasized in their toolkit is accessibility, having the program available for everybody, and they had a wealth of tips on safety and organizing and roles and who does what.
And that's the same with the mobilize.us, where I initially heard it from. And ironically enough, that the one thing that they use is social media, within their website. So they allow you to go in there and register, and then you can connect to Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media accounts you have, which I thought, is another way to spread the word.
Does it kind of aggregate from all of the participants?
It does.
Okay.
It does, yeah. So they have a lot of other like Move On might be part of it, or is part of it, excuse me. But social media, people use all different types of social media these days. Another positive and negative.
Yeah, double-edged sword, absolutely.
I'm sure.
It's all in how you use it, and
It
sometimes it
is.
uses you, so that's its own problem.
Yeah, I think misinformation and hate, unfortunately, become a part of it.
Yeah.
I don't participate in it, though. And if I did, it wouldn't be from that angle.
Yeah. What would you say is different about this year's march as opposed to past organizational events here locally?
It's inclusive. I don't think the focus is only on women, and that's why we came up with the other categories. We want to be very inclusive of all people, of all ages, and it's more tense because of what's out there. The news has just magnified a lot of hate
And
division.
Yeah. And
Well, you can sell more ad space that way, unfortunately.
Well-
it's not a great model.
And so I don't think there's been a march like this since the last Women's March, which was pre-COVID. So that's 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think for that reason, it feels new to people. Like, oh, can we really do this? Is it going to be dangerous? Are people going to come by with shotguns? I don't think there's going to be danger.
No.
But there was, when we were parked on the corner by Chimney Craft, and had a booth set up and holding signs, I mean, people will come by and yell. And that's what Lupe was referring to. These high school kids, just foul-mouthed, ignorant people. So that's why education is such an important thing. And just two things as far as education that I think doesn't get covered well enough. One is, how does the system work? How, civics.
Right.
I had civics when I was in junior high school. I remember that. How do things work? And then just critical thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Which is so important and so lacking. I remember talking to my children, at the dinner table and trying to help them sort through. If my son came and said, oh, my friend said this, and I said, well, really? Now, is he usually correct? Does that make sense that that's true?
Can he cite his sources?
Maybe. No, we didn't go that far. I mean, he was like a grade schooler. But it was like, maybe that's not true. And he thought, no, maybe that's not true.
Well,
But on Facebook and internet, it's a nasty place to be.
I was like, oh, that aligns with my confirmation bias. Let me just repost it. And, before you know it.
You had a lot of phrases out there,
And anger.
Yeah.
And I try to...
There's some righteous rage involved. I feel it's not
true.
really being aimed effectively because, as you mentioned, people don't really understand the layers and function of bureaucracy within the government. They don't understand the three branches, what the executive branch actually does versus what the legislative branch actually does.
I mean, just simple stuff like some government agency gets a grant.
Yeah, that's its own thing to navigate, as I'm learning.
And people say, well, that money should be, the school district gets a grant for an education program, and people go to a meeting and say, you should spend this on roads. Well, you can't.
It's designated for this specific thing.
And that grants somehow are a bad thing. When that is one of the ways that money gets moved out of the government.
Right.
I pay my taxes, you're spending my tax money. Yeah, well, for good things.
It's supposed to be, yeah. So we are about 3 minutes away from our planned ends. Like I said, we're flexible here. But I did want to ask, how do you respond to criticism that marches like these are largely performative and don't actually affect or impact actionable change?
You know what? Let me comment on that, because I have not been a big fan of standing around carrying signs. There's so many ways that we can be active to do this. But last year, what I learned is the big value of events like this is bringing the people together, is getting people involved and supporting each other.
Establishing community.
Relationships.
And solidarity and relationships, and then a small army moving forward for advocacy. So, I think it's true that you're going to have so many people see you standing
it's like, oh, you're virtue signaling.
But on the other hand, the people that are afraid are going to see us standing out there, and they will feel
safer.
A little more brave.
Yeah.
But I do think that I recognize it now that is the biggest value of this, is when people are frustrated, when people are angry, when people are afraid, if they can be involved, they will feel better. If they do something, I tell people, you can't fix everything. Do something. Fix something. You don't have to fix it all. But that's the big value in this, is when people come together, you can see that they just all feel better about it.
I know. Can you imagine if you had 100 people out there? Maybe that one person wouldn't be afraid to be in the middle of 100 people. So nobody should be afraid if there's numbers. There's power in people. And the more we grow, the more power we have behind us, more people behind us.
I can't help but tie this back to last year's first ever Pride event here in Del Norte County that we helped organize. A lot of people locally were living in the closet and afraid to come out and to talk to other people because they were afraid of being hate crimed, and hundreds showed up and showed their support. And you could feel the tone shift in the community of people just feeling safe to be themselves. And I think that might extend here as well.
Troy, when he was at our meeting, he said that the Republicans tried to reserve that parking lot to exclude the event.
I didn't hear about that.
No, wow.
I didn't hear about that.
That's what he said. I took him at his word.
I do remember that we made a conscious choice to keep it nonpartisan. The numbers of people that came out for that, and importantly so, because people should feel safe in their own community.
Yeah. And again, I really want to emphasize that it is nonpartisan. I would love to see Republicans join us.
Yeah, the common grounds. We care about the cost of our health care. We care about our kids getting accurate information. That's just...
Yeah.
Can I just add that if people want to contact us or more information, they can go to the delnortedemocrats.org, which has some information about the march and a blue button where people can donate if they want to help us underwrite the cost of this event. So when we say we're sponsoring it, that means we're the ones spending the money.
Organizing.
She's organizing.
I was just reading the verbiage on the flyer.
She's organizing. The Democrats are spending money on this, and so we want to do more things like this, and we hope people will show up. And I really think we could get 100 people. It would be wonderful to see more than that, but I think that's possible.
And if not, it's going to be what it is, right?
If we had 50 activists that we can organize in this event, that would be a great coup.
A coup?
Yeah.
That was a bad word. That was a bad word. Take that back.
It's actually only a coup if it comes from the coup d'etat region of France. Otherwise, it's just sparkling authoritarianism. I'm sorry. Any more closing thoughts?
No, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for joining us here on KFUG Community Radio for community service. This has been recorded. I'll get it uploaded to our YouTubes so folks can listen in advance of the event. But just closing reminders, the doors open at the Crescent City Cultural Center at 10:30 a.m. From 11 to 11:30, we will be having the speakers speaking about civil rights, immigration, education, and healthcare. And then from 11:30 to 1:30, 1:30, they will be marching along Highway 101 to the fairgrounds and back. If you are unable physically to march, you can hold down that corner right there, and we'll meet you there, I guess. And by 1:30, they will be returning to the Cultural Center for hot tea, coffee, and cocoa.
Yay!
Thank you so much. Keep it tuned here to KFUG Community Radio. I'm going to touch the button.